Hello! Today I've been wanting to talk about all of the references and symbolism related to Frankenstein that I have noticed within the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, especially pertaining to names such as Elizabeth and William and Henry and stuff like that. I think that we can use it to get a better understanding of the franchise. So let's get started. Five Nights at Freddy's contains many clear references to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. From FNAF characters named after Frankenstein characters, such as Elizabeth and Henry, to Dreadbear, who was once called Frankenfreddy, and even to thematic similarities, it is clear that Frankenstein was once a point of inspiration for Scott Cawthon. But what does this mean for the franchise? Although William Afton shares a name with William Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein's younger brother, he bears a far stronger resemblance to Victor himself. Within the novel, William Frankenstein dies tragically at the hands of Victor's creation. Though his death sparks Victor's guilt and serves an important thematic role, William appears very little beyond his death. Victor, on the other hand, is the story's central protagonist as he plays God in his quest to control life and death. His arrogance drives him to create a monster, but his horror compels him to abandon it. This mirrors William Afton in many ways. Although more openly antagonistic than Victor, William likewise seeks to master life and death, pursuing the secrets of immortality. In many ways, that seems to be the purpose of science as a whole, especially for people who are like William and Victor. As Braden Allenby, a professor at Arizona State University, puts it, science and technology, especially as it is practiced in the West, have always been about achieving immortality and power. Unlike Victor, though, William never questions the ethics of his actions or feels any semblance of regret or guilt for how they affect others. He never asks himself if the ends ever justify the means. William just pursued scientific discovery purely for the sake of progress, with no question of morality. He was even willing to go as far as to murder children just to see what happened. Instead of creating one monster, William had created many. Henry Emily's name seems to be connected to two different characters, Henry Clerval, Victor's best friend, and Heinrich Frankenstein, who takes the place of Victor in the classic 1931 Universal film. Within the novel, Clerval and Victor seem to have a somewhat pseudo-romantic relationship with one another. Victor even goes as far as to spend multiple pages detailing how Clerval was his dearest companion, and Clerval spent many months nursing Victor back to health after the failed experiment. While we don't know the exact nature of Henry and William's relationship, it seems clear that they were close friends as well as business partners. This plays into one of the themes of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, as there is this question of companionship and loneliness. Victor Frankenstein's creature was a very lonely creature who desperately wanted a companion, and when Victor failed to create this companion, the monster killed Clerval in retaliation, his dearest friend dead at the hands of a monster of his own making. But Henry is also complicit in the creation of the possessed animatronics, and as such, his name may be a reference to Heinrich Frankenstein, who is often referred to simply as Henry Frankenstein. While not a character who appears in the novel, he was created to replace Victor for the 1927 play that was later adapted into the iconic 1931 movie starring Boris Karloff as the monster. Henry Frankenstein was what solidified the pop culture view of Dr. Frankenstein as a brilliant yet mad scientist. But in the novel, Victor Frankenstein wasn't even a doctor at all. He was just an idiotic young college student with something to prove. While Henry wasn't an evil mad scientist, he still helped William overtake Murray's costume manor away from Edwin, and he further aided Afton in the creation of the animatronics that would eventually lead to the death of his daughter and many other children. And Henry agrees, as he claims, "It is only now that I understand the depth of the depravity of this creature, this monster that I unwillingly helped to create." And he goes on to call the animatronics small souls trapped in prisons of my making, now set to new purpose and used in ways I never thought imaginable. While William was the main architect, Henry still made monsters. Even within the Silver Eyes trilogy, it is stated that Henry created the animatronic to kill himself, As such, Henry as Henry Clerval dies at the hands of a creation by Henry as Henry Frankenstein. It all comes full circle. Elizabeth Afton is named after Elizabeth Frankenstein, who in the 1818 edition of Frankenstein is Victor's cousin, and in the 1831 edition is his adopted sister, but is his fiancée in both versions. Elizabeth Lavenza is a deeply tragic figure who isn't given much agency in the novel beyond how she can serve Victor's story. Although she is a captivating character in the novel, I actually prefer how Elizabeth is portrayed in Guillermo del Toro's movie, as there, she is a character who loves and appreciates all forms of life and considers her life's pursuit to be to find a life form that is the most pure. She especially takes an interest in insects and takes on a maternal and later seemingly romantic role in the creature's life. But as this movie came out in 2025, years after Elizabeth Afton as a character was created, this version of Elizabeth likely plays little to no bearing on the narrative of the Afton child. Within the novel, Elizabeth Lavenza had very little connection to the creature, and even died at the hands of it on her wedding day, as the beast made good on his promise that he shall be there on Victor's wedding day, after his creator failed in his promise to create a companion for his monster. While there are likely deeper thematic connections between Elizabeth Afton and Elizabeth Lavenza, the most important one seems to be that they died at the hands of a loved one's creation. They were the result of Victor and William's hubris. As such, this is why mankind should never play God. It is incredibly on the nose that the crying child gets told, "I will put you back together," which seems to be a callback to how Victor initially put his creature together. It is widely theorized that Dreadbear, a Frankenstein version of Fredbear from the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, represents the crying child. This makes it seem like Scott Cawthon is directly telling us that there are clear parallels between the crying child and Frankenstein's monster, and therefore we can look towards the monster to get a clear idea on the crying child's character. While there are many theories on what the crying child's name is, the most popular ones including Evan and Dave, the crying child is effectively a nameless character in the series. Likewise, the creature was never given a name in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, although many like to call him Adam for the quote, "I ought be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel." Mary explicitly doesn't give him a name to highlight the fact that the creature has no clear identity and no good way to define one. This lack of name also seems to bring up a question of ownership. Victor never gave the creature a name, and the implication that it was his right to give it a name seems to imply that as the creature's creator, he owns the creature. This asks some questions of ownership that FNAF also appears to touch on. Do parents own their children? Can humans even be owned? And if children are owned by their parents, rendering them property, can or should a person be prosecuted for harming their own property? Beyond this, these connections between the crying child and Frankenstein's monster could be used to support the theory that the crying child is actually the vengeful spirit, the one you should not have killed. While I personally do not believe in this theory, and I'm not going to go into the specifics of it here, it is certainly a compelling theory, and the connection between the crying child and the creature adds another layer to it. The story arc for the creature is that he starts out fairly pure, comes across a kind and caring family that he wanted to emulate and connect with, but that went incredibly wrong since the family viewed him as a monster when they finally saw him. And so he leaves and becomes vengeful towards his creator and starts to kill people that Victor cares for. A nameless creation of a mad scientist turning against their maker. It just fits thematically so well. The tagline of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is "Only monsters play God," and that too seems to be the central message of Mary Shelley's original novel, as the book's themes are on the importance of ethics and science, the responsibility of creators towards their creations, and the hubris of mankind. As one of the earliest science fiction novels, if not the first, Frankenstein seems to have influenced all other sci-fi media that has come after it, And as FNAF continues to take a more sci-fi turn, the ideas that were initially toyed around with in Frankenstein become more apparent. William went from being a simple child murderer whose victims eventually possess animatronics to a mad scientist whose end goal is to learn the secrets of immortality using remnant and agony. Like Victor Frankenstein, William ignored these lessons and thus was consumed by his own madness, but we can still learn from their mistakes in the real world. And that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Do you agree with me? Do you think that we can look to And that is the end of the video. Do you agree with me? Do you think we can look to Frankenstein to solve Five Nights at Freddy's? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and just have a great day. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.